The leaked Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer may have just confirmed that the Punisher and Spider-Man are breaking Daredevil out of prison, but that's not all. They are also breaking out Jean Grey. Hey everybody, Colton here, and the second trailer for Spider-Man Brand New Day has leaked yet again, and this time in full HD. Now, the trailer, it still isn't officially out yet. I can't show you any clips or stills from it because if I did, this video would go bye-bye, but if you want to see the trailer, it is online, like everywhere. So search your feelings, find it you will. Now, in this slightly different version of the trailer, we see Spider-Man fighting Scorpion at the beginning instead of the Hand, but we do see the Hand ninjas return a little later, as we'll talk about here in a sec. Now, in this fight with Scorpion, Spider-Man is being like uncharacteristically aggressive and like bodying poor Scorpion. And if you think about it, Peter facing aggression and trying to bury it makes the Hulk and the Punisher all the more perfect fits for this movie. Bruce Banner has buried his darker, aggressive half, while the Punisher has embraced his. But what Banner and Frank do have in common is that they are both burying and suppressing parts of themselves, making the rage all the more dangerous. Spider-Man is going to have two very different lessons to learn from these two characters, but there's a third character who might actually be able to show Peter the path that is the best fit for him, as well as the best fit for Jean Grey, who, remember, has a darker half of her own. See, Spider-Man, he has to learn how to walk that tightrope between being Spider-Man and Peter Parker instead of falling fully on one side or the other. And I think the character that could really help Peter find that balance is Matt Murdock. There's a scene in this new trailer where Frank is driving his van and yelling, "If you gotta do something, do it now!" And it cuts to a shot of Spider-Man in the prison cell block fighting the Hand ninjas. Remember, the Hand is a group of ninjas who have a long history of creeping in the shadows of the MCU's New York City, and they were prominently featured in Daredevil Season 2, which also, of course, was the first time we met Jon Bernthal's Punisher. Now, we know that come the end of Daredevil Born Again Season 2, Matt landed himself in prison for the crimes of the vigilante Daredevil, and it would be one hell of a coincidence if Spider-Man Brand New Day, a movie that already has massive connections to the Daredevil corner of the MCU, with Punisher showing up, Sheila Rivera, plus Matt Murdock was Peter Parker's lawyer in No Way Home.
I'm a really good lawyer.
So we are seeing the Hand ninjas in a prison cell block fighting Spider-Man, and you want me to believe that Daredevil isn't involved? I don't know, man. I think he has to be. I also think that whatever the hell could be going on with Peter and with these blacked out eyes and whatnot, that could also be connected to the Hand and their dark magic and their ability to resurrect people from the dead. In the first trailer, after all, for Brand New Day, we heard talks of the life cycles of a spider and how those who make it through those cycles experience a rebirth.
And for those spiders who make it through, it amounts to a kind of rebirth.
It's been theorized and even reported on by some reliable leakers that we could see Spider-Man actually die in this movie and be resurrected. So maybe the Hand will be directly involved with that. And we need to remember that at this point, the Hand is likely under the rule of Elektra, who they resurrected in the Defender series and who is totally still alive and likely even going to pop up in Born Again Season 3. More on that in a sec. So let's get into it. Let's figure out why the Hand ninjas are in a prison and why they're fighting Spider-Man. And keep in mind, trailers, they are notorious for misdirects. Scenes are cut together in a certain way that makes things appear to pan out differently than they do in the actual film. Now, while this can at times be done to hide the actual plot of the film and not reveal spoilers, the main reason it's done is it's just what the trailer house does. Those are the companies that specialize in cutting trailers, and they are hired by the film's marketing department to make the trailers engaging, and they will cut together different scenes and beats and pieces of dialogue and action sequences that they think mesh well and make for a compelling trailer. So I give you that disclaimer because that could very well be what's happening in this trailer. But what if it's not? What if we are getting a glimpse of, or at least a tease at, the Punisher and Spider-Man at some point in this movie breaking Matt Murdock out of prison because the Hand ninjas have come for him? Punisher and Spider-Man may think that Matt is in danger and will be killed if taken by the Hand, but what they don't know is that it is probably Elektra who has sent the Hand to rescue her locked up former lover. Because look, I don't think Spider-Man would look to break Matt out of prison, nor would Matt have any interest in being broken out of prison, especially when he surrendered himself and cares about the law and likely wants to serve his sentence to prove a point. Spider-Man isn't going to just try to convince Matt, hey, I'm Spider-Man, let me help break you out of there. But I could see Spider-Man and Punisher maybe working together after getting a tip or a lead that Matt was in danger in lockup. And maybe the only way to keep him safe is to not only stop the Hand from attacking him in the prison, but removing Matt from the prison and getting him somewhere safe. Now, I do want to be clear, I don't think that Daredevil has a major role in this movie by any means. In fact, I think it could be on par with his appearance in Spider-Man No Way Home. In fact, I think that this scene with the Hand taking place in the prison, I think it could actually be one of the many missions we will see taking place in the opening montage sequence of Brand New Day, where we are going to see Spider-Man fighting a shit ton of villains: Boomerang, Tarantula, Scorpion, Tombstone, and of course, the Hand Ninjas. And I think this opening montage might show us some glimpses of what Peter was up to, not only during like Thunderbolts, but also during Daredevil Season 3, and now in the immediate aftermath of Daredevil Season 3. I think this montage could feature some narration and serve as a catch-up for what Spidey has been up to. We could see Frank and Peter actually working together because, remember, later in the film, and as we saw in a previous trailer, it is established that these two characters, they know each other. They've met before.
The hell, Frank? You just hit me with a van!
Quit your whimpering.
I think this opening montage sequence of fights with different villains, I think the capper to it all could be his encounter with the Hand when the Punisher recruits him to help save Matt Murdock from a tip that he received that Matt was in danger. And in this scene, we could see Matt like insisting that he's gonna stay in prison, but thanks Spider-Man for the help. And we could even get a fun line that reminds us that Matt no longer has any idea who this Peter Parker guy is. He only knows him as Spider-Man and remembers that, yeah, I represented you in that Mysterio case, but he doesn't remember any of the details. And Matt, with his keen senses, could even be kind of flummoxed by this feeling of not remembering something that he should, and he could even feel the pressure of that spell pushing up against his senses, and it could make him uneasy. And that would be a perfect way to tease and reintroduce and set up this whole idea going into this movie that no one remembers Peter Parker, setting up the whole thing with Ned and MJ for the rest of the film. And as we've seen in the trailers, when Peter is fighting the Hand Ninjas in the prison, we see his eyes go black, so something is going on with that mutation, whatever's happening with him, with his aggression and all of that. So if I'm correct that fight sequence is toward the end of like the opening montage of Act 1, this fight with the Hand, who has like some weird, magic and stuff, that could be what initiates Peter's furthering mutation. This could be when we see that start for the beginning of the film, and Peter then begins going through these changes following his encounter with the Hand. So anyway, after the opening montage where Spider-Man has been heroing like crazy and gets the key to the city and is now going through these mutations, he's feeling different, and we get that letter that he's trying to give to MJ but probably still doesn't, and he's just going through the paces and having like this quarter life crisis. That is when we could see him, Spider-Man, the hero of New York, who there's a newfound love for, I guess you could say. He could then be recruited by the DODC, the Department of Damage Control, and Spider-Man could be hesitant to help them at first because of the run-ins that they've had in the past. But the DODC, with its new leader, and who I believe is playing William Metzger, a mutant-hating dude from the comics, they could sell Spider-Man some bullshit on how the DODC has been misguided and misrepresented, and now we have new leadership, and we love superheroes, and our main focus is just taking down super villains, and we need to put them in check, and we need good superheroes to help us hunt down and take down bad super people, and that will then all shine a light on what's really to come, which is how the DODC is simply looking to control superpowered people, and they look to control mutants, and any super people that they can't control and use for their own gain, they will be blackballed and painted as villains. And that moment will come for Spider-Man come the third act of the film when he realizes that Jean Grey hasn't been the villain, it's the DODC. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised even in the slightest to learn that Scorpion's release and him getting this new mechanized suit, that could have all been the DODC. All the villains that we are seeing in the opening montage sequence, they could be provided stuff from the DODC. Because what these organizations do when they need to justify their own existence, especially now in a situation in the MCU where superheroes are kind of back on top and being beloved by the general public, I could see the DODC providing funding for supervillains to make the general public say, oh, super people are dangerous, and make it to where the DODC can now justify its existence and get more funding, blah, 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 and pursue their ultimate goal of controlling power. And I'm sure they're also working with Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. Anyway, so Spider-Man, I think he'll figure all that out. And now that he knows all that, he's going to realize that the people he loves are in danger. In this leaked trailer, we hear the telepath character that we assume is Jean Grey jumping from mind to mind and threatening Spider-Man and paying a visit to MJ. But again, I don't think that's Jean in that moment. I think it's the DODC using Jean's powers. I think she is locked up somewhere in a DODC facility, and William Metzger could very well be using some type of tech to use Jean's powers, but it's really him who has been taunting Spider-Man and causing all of this trouble with Jean's telepathic abilities. Now, there's also a moment in the trailer where Spider-Man goes to get MJ, and he says that he needs her to trust him, and he takes her to Frank's hideout to protect her and keep her hidden from the telepath. But then we get a line where MJ asks Frank if he's going to let Spider-Man go alone. And by the look on Frank's face in this scene when MJ asks him that question, the answer is no, I'm not going to let him go alone, and he's going to go help Peter on this next mission. Yet another rescue mission like the one that Spider-Man helped him with at the start of the film with Daredevil. And that is when they will go to the DODC holding facility to rescue Jean. We have seen in another leaked trailer for this film that came out months ago, a scene where Frank shows up with a gun blasting people, and Spider-Man says, "Frank, what are you doing here?" And Frank says, "Saving your ass." And we also got that leaked image a while back of Jean and Punisher standing side by side, and Frank has his gun drawn and seemingly pointed at DODC agents as he is helping Jean escape. Now, there is also a scene in this leaked trailer where we see Spider-Man seemingly taunting a DODC agent or some kind of law enforcement or security dude in like riot gear outside of what looks like a prison. Now, I don't know if this is at the start of the film where he's breaking out Daredevil, as I theorized at the top, or that scene is all from the same scene where Spider-Man is arriving at the holding facility and he's just there to save Jean. There are so many possibilities here, and it's really fun to just kind of talk about and geek out with you guys. So we do have to remember that Daredevil Born Again Season 3, it is happening, and we know part of that will take place with Matt in prison. So I don't think they want this movie, Spider-Man Brand New Day, to step on the toes of that show too much by showing things that happen after Daredevil Season 3 from like a timeline perspective. What they could do is, since they can safely assume that basically anyone who watches Daredevil Born Again Season 3 will have seen the new Spider-Man movie, they can safely reference a moment from Spider-Man in Daredevil Season 3 where the Hand Ninjas came for him and Spider-Man and Punisher saved him. And that can then lead into a story about how the ninjas weren't actually there to kill Matt, they were there to save him and bring him to Elektra, who, remember, is now leading the Hand. God, that would be so cool. Marvel, I'm available if you ever, want a dipshit to bounce some ideas off of. All right, guys, well, those are just my kind of chaotic thoughts about this leaked trailer. I'm excited for the actual trailer to come out, but I've just got so many like fun ideas from watching that leaked trailer, and I just wanted to share them with you guys and talk to you. Let me know your thoughts and theories on it down in the comments below. We will, of course, cover the trailer like officially when it comes out, and we'll have a great breakdown for it up on Screen Crush, so be sure to check that out. All right, I'm gonna go. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. I will see you guys next time. I've been Colton Ogburn. Bye!